Hair, we all have it. Whether curly, straight, black, or blonde, our hair is connected to who we are and is connected to our identity and experiences. Despite this, according to the playwright and scholar Janet Sears, for no other racial or cultural group is a hairstyle also a personal and political statement which reflects the beliefs, the history, the aspirations, the pain, the jubilation, and the contradictions of many Black women's lives. It's for this reason that I would like to further explore the topic of Black hair in my talk today entitled Why I Hate the Natural Hair Community, Identity Formation, Self-Perception, and the Exclusionary Aspects of the Black Natural Hair Community on YouTube. Before I continue to explain my findings, I will just define what natural hair means. Initially, being natural or having natural hair meant that one had hair that was not chemically treated, i.e. not chemically straightened. However, as the term natural hair began to be used in connection with the natural hair movement, the understanding of what exactly natural hair is became more disputed. As more people joined the community, an abundance of quasi-rules and do's and don'ts began to appear, along with ingrained perceptions connected to colorism and so-called distinctions between good and bad hair. This turned the term into a far more intricate and complex concept than it initially was defined as. Many scholars point out that there are in fact two waves of the natural hair movement, visible in the US. The first wave was in the 1960s and 70s. This natural hair movement was connected to the Black Power, Black Arts, and Black is Beautiful movements of the time. As Johnson and Bankhead point out, during the 60s and 70s, the Afro hairstyle, also called the natural, became symbolic of political change, Black self-love, intellectual historical knowledge, and Black power. This was the era where hair that was once considered bad because of its tight curl was now considered good because it was worn free from chemical or heat processing restraint. In addition to being symbolic of beauty, the style was also representative of the social rebellion and civil revolution underway. In comparison, the current natural hair movement, according to Johnson and Bankhead, tends to be less about a political statement and more about self-acceptance and the opportunity to embrace one's natural tresses in its natural, unaltered state. With the increase of public discussions and perhaps even acceptance of natural hair, Bird and Tharps state that Black women incorporated the internet into their arsenal of beauty tools. This meant that many Black women turned to YouTube and other social media platforms in order to gain information, support, and acceptance. As Cameron Jackson notes, YouTube has taken a leading role among other social platforms as an online community building space due to its parasocial nature, which is defined as the perceived appearance of face-to-face interaction between content creator and audience. This becomes a much more powerful community building tool as opposed to an audience simply interacting with written word or blogs or still images on other platforms. The combination of visual aids and in-depth information allows Black women to find a connection with whom they would like to watch and whatever they seek, information, support, or encouragement. Overall, there have been several articles published which address the positive impact as well as participatory and community building effects of the natural hair movement, as represented in digital media. However, most of this research skims over the exclusionary aspects of the movement. Thus, this paper aims to critically address the exclusionary aspects of the Black natural hair community on YouTube. My approach focused on 10 YouTube videos published from 2010 to 2020 with subject matter that deals with no longer wanting to be a part of or distancing oneself from the aforementioned community. The aim here was to find out how identity formation and self-perception with regard to association with a certain community can in fact deconstruct cultural and historical traditions. For example, communal traditions of family experiences regarding hair become dismissed as the natural hair community disregards and criticizes products and procedures of taking care of hair as passed on from previous generations. While the growth in appreciation, acceptance, and love with regard to one's hair is celebratory and are important for building a positive sense of identity, the strict regimes and rules associated with the movement allow for some to be excluded if they deviate from said rules. Therefore, I argue that an online community which initially was created with the intention of unity can in turn also represent a community of judgment and exclusion. When one types in natural hair movement into YouTube, you will immediately see pejorative titles such as RIP natural hair, the unspoken problem in the natural hair community. The natural hair community is a scam. Natural hair movement is a thing of the past, or why I hate the natural hair community. The majority of the videos I analyzed were uploaded in the last 3 years, and an increase of not just positive, but also critical non-scholarly articles published on the natural hair community additionally points towards the exclusionary developments in the natural hair community. From my analysis of the videos, there are many aspects of the so-called community which are criticized. However, for the sake of conciseness, I grouped the issues into 4 main categories, namely hair typification, quasi-rules, judgment, and lack of inclusion. This hair type classification chart was developed by Oprah's hairstylist in 1998 and was published in his book. And it was based on different hair textures. The classification was initially created in order to help women more easily figure out what procedures and products would work best according to their hair texture. Black women's hair textures would usually fall within the 3 and 4 categories. This informative tool, however, began to include texture discrimination in the natural hair community, with most media representation focusing on 3B or 3C hair while ignoring women with 4B or 4C hair. As Raven Jenkins points out, within this movement of empowerment, there's also an aspect of competition and idealism. A lot of the times when we see Black women in commercials or ads, it's typically that same 3B, 3C loose curl often associated with mixed race women. The glorification of a specific type of curl in turn creates hierarchies within the community and reaffirms hundreds of years of more Eurocentric ideologies of what is considered to be beautiful hair. Additionally, many creators complained about videos which included the 4C classification in the title of their videos in order to receive more views and attention, but the creators themselves did not actually have the texture of that hair. Another aspect of the natural hair community that was criticized was the unheard of rules, which are abundant. The people within the community who try to implement these strict rules have even been referred to as the natural hair police or hair Nazis. This policing of products and practices often took place in the comments section of videos. The aspect thus which creates this parasocial atmosphere of a community on YouTube is thus the very source of the anti-communal behavior in the community. In particular, products and practices used by a person's mother or grandmother were declared forbidden and unhealthy. This in turn also made the concept of natural hair even more difficult to define. The policing of natural hair ties into the judgmental aspects of the movement. Some community members judged and criticized others for wearing any style other than their natural curly hair, or bashed newcomers to the movement for using supposedly wrong products or techniques instead of helping the person to figure out how to deal and take care of their hair. In addition, there is a presence of lack of inclusion in the community. This is not only present in who are the main influencers and content creators present on YouTube, but also connects to branding and advertisement. As mentioned earlier, hair brands often exclude people with a certain hair type and often exclude people with a certain skin color. This connects back to perpetual aspects of racism and colorism which plague the Black community. Intersectionality beyond race and gender is also not taken into consideration as often in the movement. This means that ageism as well as sizeism are often present when looking at the success of content creators on YouTube and their presence in other forms of digital and print media. To sum up, I would like to reiterate that U2 provided several community building aspects which helped to assist a generation of Black women embrace their natural hair textures. However, the exclusionary and judgmental aspects of the community have ultimately led to the movement's downfall, as can be seen with the increase of videos and content creators who have begun to distance themselves from the labels of the movement. What is most important is that each woman finds what works best for their own hair without submitting themselves to concretized rules. As the playwright Trey Anthony states, our hair carries our journey, because that's where we carry all our hopes, all our dreams, our hurt, our disappointments, they're all in our hair. This hair journey that each Black woman goes on is thus a lifelong journey of self-acceptance. As Johnson and Bankhead conclude, it is crucial that as a society we send the message to Black women and girls that they are worthy of admiration and respect in their natural states. Hair plays a crucial role in identity formation that cannot be ignored. Giving voice to this issue sends a message of self-acceptance which is necessary for well-being and overall health. And here's just my bibliography. And thank you for your attention.